Herzlich willkommen, ihr wissensdurstigen Hörerinnen und Hörer, zu eurem Lieblingspodcast Studieren ist sexy. Dem Podcast, der dir zeigt, dass Wissen nicht nur Macht ist, sondern auch verdammt verführerisch sein kann. Von Geheimtipps für die perfekte 1-0 in Prüfungen bis hin zu legendären Abschlussarbeiten, die sogar die Dozenten alt aussehen lassen. Neue Folgen erwarten dich immer Montagmorgens. Der einzige Grund, warum Montage plötzlich sexy werden. Bist du nun bereit für deine intellektuelle Verführung? Dann schnapp dir jetzt deine Kopfhörer und lass dich in die sinnliche Welt des Studierens entführen. Und hier ist dein charmanter Gastgeber, der Casanova des Campus, Alles Andi.
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Studieren is sexy. You don't have to check your phone, you're on the right podcast. But for this episode, we're going to talk in English because of my lovely guest for today. Today I'm having a guest. I got to know this little bad boy back in Australia, in Sydney. And this guy, this handsome, lovely, great and hilarious guy is from America. I'm so happy, I'm glad to take his precious time and talk with me about everything and especially about his study. Brady, thank you for being my guest for today. How are you?
I'm great. I appreciate all the compliments, and it's awesome to see you again. It's awesome, and I appreciate that flexibility. I think every little bit of that English practice helps. So I hope this helps people with their English, if anything.
It's gonna be definitely, because some listeners of mine usually don't listen to English. So that's kind of the first step to get into the topic,
Right. English, a tough monster to master, we can say.
Like my ex-girlfriend. Brady, usually we kick this off with kind of a little story. I mean, just imagine you're on a flight back to USA, and next to you is a guy or a girl, whatever, and you're talking about the wings, about the machine and everything, and suddenly he interrupts you and says something like, "Hey, Brady, very interesting about the flight structure, but what have you studied and why?"
Wow. Well, I studied. Man, I would look at this person, I would say, wow, I was planning on watching all these, the whole Lord of the Rings marathon I have downloaded on my iPad. But I mean, yeah, I could talk about that too. And I would take out my AirPods and I would, look at him and go, frankly, I don't even know why I studied what I did. And, I'm like one of the many people out there who's now going into something that has almost no relation into what I studied. It's just completely different, right? It's, I feel like a lot of people now, they study something and they go into something it's almost unrelated. Maybe there's some skills that could carry over between the two, but it's a totally different thing. And I just think with our generation now, that's so much more prevalent than our parents, for example. But it's also what makes life maybe a little more exciting now. It makes the journey a little more intense, a little more wild, So I studied international business, and even just getting there was, I want to say maybe like a 4-year long journey. And that's the ideal time for an American to go through school. Now, I know for Europeans that can be maybe perhaps a bit different. I know there's a lot of opportunities and stuff for a lot of different things, and far less expensive as well, which I can really appreciate. But, when I started, way back then, I wanted to be a history teacher. That was my thing.
And then you started international business.
Yeah, I wanted to be a history teacher right off the bat. And I said, you know what? I thought the American thing. I'm like, you know what? They don't make enough money. And I was just so naive at the time, because, well, anyway, I then went to psychology for one semester. We got to the brain unit of the Psychology 101 course. And I said, absolutely not going to do psychology.
I love it.
We did not make it very far with psychology. And at that point, I switched to business. And
Mm-hmm.
I got this wonderful opportunity and a wonderful idea to go to a beautiful place called Sydney, Australia for 6 months.
Sounds
And I
great.
was just hopping into the business world. So that was cool, but extreme because I had never even taken really the business 101 courses yet.
Mm-hmm.
And I was hopping into a pretty like prestigious school. The school that I was going to was not, it's not world ranked or even nationally ranked at all.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like a backwater university, really. And I mean, everything was way over my head. I had no idea what any of my professors were talking about at all.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Turns out I did like okay. I passed 3 of my 4 classes. Stats is hard. That's all I can say. Stats is hard.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I met you, met a lot of beautiful people out there, and I discovered the wonders of travel, the wonders of multiple cultures around the world.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, I had to choose a concentration of business, and I did this before I left. I chose marketing. That's just
Mm-hmm.
a For our university, that was a very generic choice. Of course, marketing is not generic. But I was like, you know what? I'll choose marketing for now. A lot of these classes carry over into other things.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll select later. I was like, what's the rush? I have some time. And so, of course, after this experience, I was like, okay, you know what? International business sounds really good. So that's when I chose international business. So yeah, I mean, a history teacher to international business, but it took me going to school for a bit to really know that, and to explore the world too, because that's really how I discovered it was
Mm-hmm.
travel.
It would be interesting for my listeners if you could explain the American school system to go from school, the first place, to go to university. And just imagine I'm a golden doodle and you have to explain it to me.
For sure. Okay, so the American school system is a school system that right now is undergoing a lot of changes.
Mm-hmm.
So as I explain it, what I experienced, absolutely keep in mind, like things are totally subject to change.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big topic for us politically right now in the country. There's a lot of new subjects and things that are being added that I see, other, people that I know, their kids are taking some of these, and it's like, what? Like they're taking that class? I don't even know what that is. I don't know what that means. Um, it's almost foreign to me. Uh, so let's see. I started, if we want to start at the very, very beginning, I was at a Montessori school. I was like learning English and stuff. I don't
Mm-hmm.
remember much. I loved recess. I was great. I was king of the playground. It was awesome. Then that's pretty much it for that. Then we get into like the grades. So I mean, I've heard a bit of how it is in Europe, and I mean, there's some similarities. We have like first grade, through 12th, and that is split through 3 different schools.
Mm-hmm.
Ideally, what schools are doing now is they're doing, first through, or usually kindergarten, really. So kindergarten, first grade through 5th grade,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, it's sort of just this whirlpool of a lot of different ages in the same building,
Mm-hmm.
and kids are just growing up. You're learning some basic stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You're learning math, you're learning science, you're learning English, you're learning history, you're learning a lot of different things. You learn group projects, working with teams.
Mm-hmm.
You learn collaboration, a lot of these life skills too.
Mm-hmm.
You of course
Like
learn like
in
health.
Germany, primary school from first class to
Yeah,
fourth.
absolutely,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. And then, but back when I was going through it, it was kindergarten through 6th grade. So that was a change that they were making while I was going to school. I was the first class in high school to be a freshman.
Mm-hmm.
Because before it was 3 years of high school, 3 years of middle school. When I went through, because they were changing it, you went through the primary school and then you started junior high. It was called junior high back then.
How old
So
are you
we
usually when you start junior high?
Oh man, if I had to guess, ooh, let's see. I was like maybe 12.
All right.
12 if I had to guess. Yeah. And then I was 14 when I got to high school. So I only had 2 years of this like junior high / middle school mix because everything was changing. So they called us the guinea pig class. Every change the state was making, because this education thing's on a state level, right? So every change that would happen, you get a new person elected, for example, at the state level, and a ton of things start changing. And we were the guinea pig class for that. Anything new that they wanted to test, get data on, any sort of results, they brought through us. And as I'll explain a bit later in the high school section of this, like this backfires on them in a very hilarious way. But we did the 2 years of the junior high, / middle school mix, and then I was the first freshman of part of the first class at Eastlake High School, Sammamish, Washington, and it was just snobby rich kids everywhere. I really didn't fit in. I mean, you have to picture like you got like the Microsoft, Amazon executives in the United States. It's sort of like that rich 1%, and you're going to school with all their kids. So for example, like Bill Gates's kids, if they didn't go to a private school, would have been at my high school. So that's like, to give you an idea, like these aren't really pleasant. Like if you fit in and your parents have the rich jobs and stuff, like, you'd fit in probably. Some of these kids are showing up to school in pretty fancy cars. And funny enough, wrecking a lot of these fancy cars too. That's always hilarious.
Like in the American movies. I can't.
Yes.
Did you have a fancy car?
I did not. I rode the bus. I rode the bus. I think my parents thought, you know what? We're not going to buy into it. Of course, we were well off like a lot of the others, but my parents kind of put some thought into that. They're like, you know what? Maybe we don't completely spoil our kids, but let's teach them some good stuff about like what the real world is like. And honestly, doing this in gray, rainy Seattle, pretty depressing, honestly. I'm pretty envious of those kids in like California, for example, that get it. They have the sunshine every day when they're doing their sports. They're not having to put on this big puffy rain jacket just to go to school. Pretty jealous of some of these other places. But high school was just the average for me, not so great experience, I would say. Didn't get along very well with people. Then, of course, we had more of this guinea pig testing stuff. And this is sort of like where it backfires and where it sort of reaches like a boiling point as far as our parents are concerned, because our parents are kind of sick of this at this point, right? Our kids are like receiving this treatment and have been like, we didn't even really receive what was supposed to be like the American education. We received this like monstrosity of an American education. So, of course, I believe, if I remember, new person's elected, this new sort of statewide exam is issued out. And, parents receive the right to just opt their kids out of these. They can sign some forms and their child could just skip all these exams and stuff. And so
you had a kind of a separate exam system like any other kids.
Yeah. You had like, this never went towards like a grade, for example. This was just like state results, or it was like a weird grading thing. For example, I remember like taking like the SAT, ACT, and that wasn't like you received like an A, B, C, D, F. It was like you received like, like a 12 or 1,500 out of like 2,000 something points. And so every single kid at our school got out of these exams. The state got 0 results. So that was like the boiling point of like, we're just not going to do this guinea pig thing anymore. And that was kind of a cool, almost American moment of protest, of like, we're not going to buy into this sort of broken system anymore. Now, of course, I don't know if it's so broken now, right? Because they've done all this guinea pig stuff. I bet it's a better experience.
So then you just went back to the normal system, like with the other kids, and that was supposed to be like what?
The normal system, like like the new system they developed based off of our results. But yeah, I mean, it was really by that point. Let's see here. By the point that happened, we had graduated because that was senior year. So we never even really got to see any change. I mean, we were just kind of like out the door, and then we were going to college or like a gap year, something like that.
All right, you just went through the system, like through the school, but with all the others, not with this crazy guinea pigs exam system.
Sorry. Yeah. My apologies. So yeah, we were like at school with everyone else. The only complication there was we had like a STEM school which focused big on math and science, and then we had like regular school. And the regular school part, that was more like what you would see in a Hollywood movie. That's more, I think, like what the Europeans would be like. But when they think of the American school system, it's just like the normal thing. You go to your history class, your science class, your math class. You have like homeroom, you have PE. And then, this STEM school really focused, your parents could opt you into it. It's just like mega science and math focused. You had, less emphasis on things like history and English. And a lot of the reason for that too, that was kicked off a big deal by Microsoft. Our school was sponsored by Microsoft. So they would give every student a laptop, and they would block everything that was not a Microsoft product. So Google was blocked. And it's funny to see what would happen to grades when they blocked Google. That was actually hilarious for us, because Bing sucked. No one used Bing. No one wanted to use Bing. Research papers and stuff, impossible. You had to wait to go home and get onto your personal machine if you had one. And then do the work. Yeah, because it wasn't possible. I mean, Bing will kick you anything that's not what you searched. And I don't know what Bing is like now. Of course, I'm just a Google person now after I have PTSD of Bing, Yeah, it's, but yeah, I mean, it really day to day, it was pretty the generic American experience. It was just every once in a while you would get these exams and stuff that you'd have to do where it's my apologies. Yeah, it was
sounded like you were kind of too early in the school, or you were separate in another system. Okay. And after the high school, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was high school. And then for me, university in Colorado. So I decided, because I didn't get along with anyone, I was like, okay, so how do I do this? And I never see any of these people ever again, besides my family and my siblings, of course. And I decided I did research on this with my homeroom teacher. She was in on it, and she was like, okay, if you never want to see these people ever again, that's fine. Let's get you somewhere where you're comfortable. I decided on Colorado Mesa University in Grand Junction, Colorado, the most probably backwater place ever. Not a single person from my 2,000 plus population high school was going there. So it seemed perfect for me, and a completely different culture.
Just to interrupt you, usually if you don't want to study, then you start working, right?
Oh yeah. And there's shockingly pretty good opportunity with that. It's actually almost kind of rare when I hear of someone who decided to not go education, because some people just know, after high school, I'm not going to do well in university. So why would I bother? Of course, in the US, we had to pay for school or take out a loan, or you score big as an athlete and get a full ride scholarship. That's the golden ticket, right? You play American football for Alabama, and you win the national championship and your education's free. That's the golden ticket, But for
But
the
it's
most
a high
for,
competition, right?
oh yeah. And the physical strain on your body and social pressure, it's like some can argue it's like this young celebrity sort of thing. And it's not healthy, and it's not particularly good. There's a lot of new research coming out on that. But yeah, I mean, I would know people, they would go into being like, they'd be like a car mechanic. They would go, they would just be like waiting tables. A lot of these people had a very good idea of just, let's take a gap year, and let's figure out our life. Because at 18, a lot of the time we don't know what we want to do in life at 18. And I know I didn't. I would have been one of these people, if my parents weren't paying for my education, I made a deal with them. I said, look, like, I don't want to go to school. Like, I don't think that's for me. And they said, okay, well, no, you're going to go. And I said, well, I'm not going to pay for it. And so that's how we made that agreement, just with us. But not every American kind of has that, that luxury. It's not particularly normal, I would say. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of nice. Because a lot of the students that go to school that I know that graduated, it's like they're in debt now. They have like a pretty good job, but they're in debt. But these people that got the job right out of high school, there's no debt. They don't owe the bank any money or anything. And I mean, that's a nice peace of mind sort of thing to me.
It's you have to almost calculate, does it make sense to go to university? Afterwards, I get a return on my job, a high profitly income, or I don't go and I start probably a normal job and work up.
Yeah. I mean, even think like med school, for example, in the United States, like, okay, you get paid a ton of money after, sure. But how much money in student loans? I think a lot of people kind of forget that. And you owe this money to someone, that someone's called a bank, and they want a return on their investment. And that investment is you, right? And the quality of your education. So that's a lot of pressure, So yeah, I mean, they end up in their lives doing some pretty great stuff, but that was a very rocky road to get there, because it wasn't just, the education's brutal. It's a very hard to go through med school, a lot of studying. And, people kind of forget sometimes about like this whole debt thing, they're living in not very great conditions because they can't afford very much. That ramen diet becomes a big reality for a lot of these people. A lot of the time to work out goes away, so they live pretty unhealthy lives going through that too. So it's not only like the stress of like money and time, it's also like their health, like their physical and mental health kind of.
And they even study that.
Yes.
Okay, tell me about the university system. How is it to study over there in America? Is it like in the movies, party hard?
Absolutely not. It's
taking drugs.
You got a lot of that. I mean, of course, like I've heard of some schools like ASU, Michigan State is another one. So if you have listeners out there that are looking for like a Kappa Sigma Alpha Phi sort of like a fraternity experience, like American Pie. I mean, look into some of those schools. You're not going to get a whole lot done, and the people you're living with are going to make sure that you don't. But you'll have the time of your life, apparently. For me, it wasn't so much. Again, like a backwater school. We had a lot of country hicks, we like to call them. You would have like people like they're just chewing tobacco in the classroom. They just like spit it on the ground, like right in front of you. You're like trying to take notes. You're like, oh, dude, that's disgusting.
Really?
Yeah, it's like, you'd have people showing up in alligator skin cowboy boots and a cowboy hat, jeans, like Levi jeans, big, belt buckle. I mean, you'd have people coming right off the ranch. It was shocking to watch them come out of like a diesel truck rather than just a horse. Because you would think they would just be going horseback with all that stuff they're wearing. But I mean, those are the kind of people that we had. So it wasn't so much like the fraternity Hollywood experience. It was really just this backwater sort of like community almost experience of Grand Junction, Colorado. But Colorado's a cool state. It has awesome stuff. Skiing on the weekends, amazing. You have places like Aspen you can go to, or Breckenridge, Copper Mountain. I preferred Sunshine, that was my one, my ski resort. So you had all the recreation stuff you wanted. Mountain biking, it's like a new meta there for the entire world. We have a ton of people that come in just for the mountain biking all around the world. Our school also really liked to import Norwegian bikers. That was a weird thing that we did. We just had a lot of Norwegian bikers for our biking team. Just love bringing Norwegian bikers. So a lot of people coming to international, that they wanted to see, maybe they don't want to like study in New York, for example, or a big American city. They want something more in the country. They want land and space. And that for them, I was mentoring students in university for a long time from Poland and Finland. And that was a big shocker for them. Yeah. Oh, people from Finland loved it. Yeah. I mean, they miss sauna. I know how much they miss sauna. They always talk about sauna, but we did not have the sauna for them, unfortunately. But they loved it. It was a big shock for them. It was a great American experience. So, and then Poland as well. They loved it. But we had students from all over coming in. So it was crazy for me to see, because I was thinking coming, out of high school, I was like, oh, this is backwater. No one's going to know about this. And then I get there and there's a lot of international, people, a lot of people from Europe and Asia and, South America. I'm thinking, whoa, okay, this place is known somehow, but how? I kind of had to discover that myself. It was just big recreation. People love the outdoors in that part of the world. So,
isn't it cheaper as well to study there?
Compared
to New York, or
that's actually a really good question. I really should have touched base on that sooner. My apologies. So the education's ran at a state level. They will charge you more for studying outside of your resident state.
Oh, really?
So yeah, I'm not a fan of it at all, if I'm completely honest. It is horrible. Because I grew up in Washington State, right near Canada. Colorado is right dead center of the country. So I'm paying out of state tuition. That is more money. That is for some people, it can be, I want to say around, for me, it was around 150% of the usual cost. And that was actually on discount. That is a discount. That is not actually what out-of-state tuition is. Out-of-state tuition, that can vary. I want to say 200%, but that might not be true everywhere.
Are you comfortable to talk about how much does it cost to study for you?
Okay, so for 6 years on a bachelor's,
yes,
over $100,000.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So when we get to the ultimate question, I was going to say this a bit later, but when we get to the ultimate question of, okay, I already said I wouldn't take it back for anything. I always need to split it in my head. Okay, so there's the fun experience side, meeting you, studying abroad, going on exchange, crazy adventures, and the people I met. I think back, man, I wouldn't take it back for anything. But if I were to go and just put this on paper, remove all the emotion, there's absolutely no way I would have done this. I think it probably would have been the most idiotic decision I ever made in my life. And, because for that kind of money, what can you do with that kind of money? You can do so much. Let's say you just want to be a young entrepreneur and, you had a good mind about you and you wanted to invest some of that money and try some business stuff. I mean, isn't that how a lot of people like Steve Jobs and Bill Gates started off?
Also in the garage,
Yeah, right. Yeah, you get a really nice garage and make some really cool stuff in there, and you end up being a part of the richest 1% of Americans.
I wouldn't say that it works for everyone, but
for sure, it's a gamble.
Exactly.
It's a gamble. Yeah, definitely a gamble. You got to know what you're doing, and you got to have a lot of faith in yourself to pull that off. But yeah, I mean, I think back and I'm gosh, wow. And again, traditionally it'd be, I think 5 years is the more typical now rather than 4. And I would say, usually it wouldn't be that much because people would be going in state. It'd be a lot cheaper, a lot cheaper.
So
And
around 40 to 50,000 probably.
yeah, I would say that's a good amount because people want to rush through it. They want to go cheap, so they'll take an overload of classes rather than 12 credit hours. They take 18 or potentially even 21 credit hours, and they'll be working at the same time. Again, very unhealthy life, no work-life balance at all. You just go to like 5, 6 classes and you go to work after, and where's the time to even do all the homework that you have?
In the night.
Yeah, for sure. And then where's sleep after that? So some people they go through it and it's like, okay, they don't actually have as much debt as you would think. And of course, if they're working at the same time, they're covering a lot of their expenses and then they can pay off that debt a lot sooner. But then you go into how our generation is with, they're not even going to end up in something that they studied. So how impactful was that very expensive degree that they have now?
But you just imagine it's kind of a travel. You go through university, you figure out what you want, where you're good in, what is your passion, and all of that leads exactly to the job you're going to do for the rest of your life, probably.
Yeah, it's the discovery and the journey along the way, and just the time that passes. Because people need this time, they need time. It's like you go through this school system, like I mentioned before, and then you're just immediately, if you don't take that gap year, which is still just a year, that's not very long, you're just thrown right into this other system. And now you got these big dollar signs and doing all this math, like you said before, you're calculating okay, is this worth it? Right. And at 18, maybe people don't do that so well, or they don't know yet.
In Germany, you have the same problem. You have kids 18 years old and they don't even know what they want to do for the future. And then they start work and travel and stuff like that to figure it out. That's kind of a problem, I think, all over the world, that we don't know where we want to, head to.
Yeah, it's I met a lot of people from Cologne, Germany last year in New Zealand. I was backpacking New Zealand for 3 months, and it was like the entire city of Cologne. Everyone that was 18 and 19 years old was just in the North Island, New Zealand. I don't know why. You go into a hostel, everyone's from Cologne. The main language in that hostel is German. It's not even English anymore, and they're all exactly like you said. They took the time, they're like, look, I'm 18, I'm 19, and I don't know what I want to do. I know there's all this stuff and studying and stuff that I want to do, but I'm going to take some time beforehand, and some of these people I would find, they would say, I kind of started this thinking I was going to go into, let's say, I don't know, marketing. But then they talk to someone really cool in the hostel and they're like, whoa, that sounds cool. Maybe I'm going to look into that instead. They're discovering these things. They're letting the time pass, and I like to think of it as you're taking that investment into yourself. Hey, on paper, this might not be so valuable, but for me, not on paper, this is just extremely valuable, because that way you're going into this education system and a bit better, okay, this is sort of the thing. I was thinking this before, but now I'm thinking this instead. And they need to take that time to realize that.
Just for the listener, if you're done with your bachelor thesis, you write a final paper, right? Or how do you finish your bachelor degree?
Oh, you pass the classes.
You don't have to write a 50, 60 pages thesis?
That's what a thesis is? Okay, all these Europeans have been telling me, I had to write a master's thesis. The master's thesis is the big thing that I hear from Europeans, the very hard, difficult thing to do.
Yeah, exactly.
We have nothing
research,
like that.
You have to figure out, do some experiments. You don't have to do that.
Yeah, I imagine for the master's, I'm not totally sure. I know
for the bachelor's, we're just talking about the bachelor's.
Yeah, for the bachelor's, no. We just had to pass these classes.
Oh,
yeah.
Shut up.
Yeah. So it's think of it like this. It's an expensive, cheap education. They're paying because we're not asking those questions like you do in the thesis. It sounds like a big research thing to me. It's you're going out and discovering these things yourself. It's on your shoulders now to get this done and to do a good job.
And you don't have to. You just follow the classes. You learn. You study. You
You get the
pass them, and
C.
then you're suddenly a bachelor.
C's get degrees. That's what we say back home. You get that C, or in some cases a D. In some cases, a D is passing even, and you just walk out with your bachelor's. And that's ultimately why I'm switching boats now, because I don't feel like this bachelor's really did not prepare me for, like, I feel very ill prepared in the business world.
Hmm.
Um, so, of course, if I didn't have to, pay for education, and take out a loan or something, that would be awesome to go for a master's, get a little more prestigious, go a little higher on the ladder
Hmm.
for that. That could definitely help. Yeah, because it's a running joke now back here. Like, a bachelor's degree is the same as a high school diploma. It just isn't worth what it used to be. Everyone's got one. So to make yourself stand out and be unique,
You
you
have to do
gotta do
masters.
some other things. Yeah. And that's exactly the thing with this TEFL program. That's exactly what I'm trying to do. Like, how can I be unique? How can I stand out? Looking at myself, I have these core skills. Now, how can I implement them? That's
Hmm.
something that a lot of our colleges and universities just cannot do. We're not there yet. We like to spend a lot of money on football, American football, and having a great looking stadium, but we just don't focus on the actual education itself.
Hmm. Just okay. You finished your bachelor degree, and then you were like, "Alrighty, what do I do for the future? Where should I apply? What is my goal in life?" And you were thinking probably about, "Alrighty, where should I go?" So what happens then in your mind?
I'll,
What
t-
did you
I'll, I'll
come up
tell
with?
I'll tell you exactly what happened and where it went horribly wrong, and then how the rest of my life. And okay, so I was thinking, because for international business, that means a lot of, like, that can mean, like, there can be like a lot of finance things with that. There can be a lot of like even like embassy work. You go live and work in another country, you work in an embassy.
Hmm. Hmm.
But the most of the jobs for international business in America are Washington, D.C. It's a lot of government work.
Hmm.
What it came down to me was like, okay, well, I've been to Washington D.C. before. Not the best area. Fun place to be. East Coast could be pretty cool. I'm a West Coast kid myself, but East Coast, I could get down with that, and the rappers and all that. I could do that. But like my family had other plans. So I'm going to introduce two other core people into this story, if you don't mind. We
Alrighty,
have
go
my
for it.
we have my uncle, crazy Uncle Kevin. Okay. This guy has
Crazy
never
Uncle
worked.
Kevin.
This guy has never worked a day in his life. His parents have paid for everything. When he got out of college, he traveled the world for like years. He just was never
Years.
home for years. He took a single backpack, and it's called backpacking now. A lot of people like to do it now, but back then this wasn't so common,
Hmm.
at least from what I know. And he just traveled and saw the entire world with his parents' credit card, essentially, right?
Really spoiled and
So
sponsored by.
yes. So like this guy does not know responsibility or anything at all.
Hmm.
Like, I mean, this is like he just lived the life. And I am extremely jealous because the
Indeed.
stories he has, the people he met, the experiences, second to none. It's insane. And then
Hmm.
we have my brother. Now, my brother's very different from I am. He graduated from West Point. That is a very prestigious Army academy. And it's
Hmm.
where the future, our future leaders in our military come from. So our government is very selective about who we allow go through these academies. Now,
Hmm.
that system is very different from the traditional American school system. You are paid to go there.
Really?
You are paid by the government to go there, and it is free.
Hmm. But you have to
So
kind of apply for it and then do some tests, right?
Yep. There's physical tests that, physical criteria that you have to meet, like how many pull-ups, how many push-ups, traditional army stuff. You have to be, of course, you have to get certain scores on your SAT, ACT. Very stressful to get in, but your life is kind of set when you get in there. I mean, you're taken care of. So he's a very prestigious guy. Right now, just to give you an idea, he's doing the bar exam to get into Harvard Law. So that's sort of the next step for him after this. But yeah, the government owns your soul essentially for 5 years after this.
Mm-hmm.
So because you owe the government, they paid you all this money, they gave you a free education. Now they want the return, like the bank before. You always owe someone in the American school system. You always end up owing someone else. So in this case, instead of a bank, like it could have been for me, now I owe my parents, right? But instead of the bank, now for him, it's the government. He owes the government time. He owes them 5 years of being an officer in their army. So, at my graduation, we'll go to my graduation in May, around a year and a half ago.
Mm-hmm.
We are all very hungover at this one Mexican restaurant, and it was very good. I mean, wow, those tacos were amazing. We were having a Bloody Mary, apparently a good hangover cure. And they tell me, and I tell them what was going through my head about what I wanted to do after I graduated. I was telling them about that. I was thinking, okay, so Washington, D.C., or maybe looking at some place like, okay, how do I start working for an embassy? I love the idea. I met people like you. You live these awesome lives, very exciting, all around the world. So how can I work at an embassy in one of these places was kind of where my mind was going.
Mm-hmm.
And they laughed. They laughed at my face. And told me, oh, no, you're not going to do that. You're going to travel the world now. You are going to take one 48-liter bag. You're going to have like 2 pairs of shorts, 1 pair of pants, 5 pairs of socks, 3 pairs of underwear, 3 shirts, 1 sweatshirt, 1 jacket if you can fit that. And you're going to travel the entire world for months and months and months, or years if it takes that.
And your family told you that. Your mom, your dad, your brother, and crazy Kevin.
Yes. So this is very unorthodox from the traditional American system, because if I owed a bank money, there wouldn't be a choice.
Immediately start working, right?
Yes, because that's what the bank wants you to do, and you owe them, right? And I mean, that's not necessarily bad. I mean, like, people live good lives, good and happy lives. They absolutely can. I'm very blessed to be able to have the experience that I did, and not have that pressure after school. No, of course, this was a serious undertaking. I went to panic mode immediately because I was like, okay, this is just insane. So let's fast forward, let's fast forward 7 weeks after this conversation. These bulls are trying to kill me in Pamplona, Spain. I am running with hundreds of people in this white outfit, this white ridiculous outfit, just trying to not get skewered by these bulls. I mean, I could have never guessed in a million years that's where I would have been after education. That's what I was doing.
Your first destination was Spain?
Iceland, Naples. So Iceland for 10 hours was our first stop. It was a layover.
Overlay, right?
Yeah. So it was a journey to get to Spain, but we knew we had to get there, right? I mean, we even had I had a situation where, we were in Budapest, Hungary. We were, drinking and stuff with my brother knows a lot of army people from around the world. A lot of people will come and train with our forces in the US. So he knew a lot of Hungarian army, special forces. So we were drinking with them, and my brother got so drunk, they don't let you carry people through security. You cannot to go through airport security.
They don't know. They don't even know that you're going to take them with you. Brady, come on.
Yeah.
Just carry a random stranger who's drunk
Yeah.
on your shoulder through the airplane. Holy moly.
He's my brother. It's fine. It's okay. It's all right. So we never
So
got
he
to
went with
Portugal.
you.
Yeah, he went with me. So we were supposed to go to Portugal, then work our way into Spain. But no, we had to like detour and all that. So it was an adventure to get to Pamplona, Spain. It was, but yeah, I would have never guessed out of the American school system. I mean, this is the stuff I was doing. Did my bachelor's degree prepare me from, trying to not be skewered by this bull in a massive arena with like essentially what seemed to be the entire world watching you? Absolutely not. Not like no amount of class time is going to prepare me for that. So I felt a little betrayed at the time. Let's just say that I felt a little betrayed by my algebra classes not helping me with that.
Why should it?
Yeah, like
just imagine the teacher start talking to you. Just imagine when you're one day in Portugal and what did you say?
My brother. Yeah, in the Bulls. Yeah, this is a Pamplona, Spain. Yeah,
following
yep.
And you're like in the class. All right.
Yeah, and I need to run this fast, and they're coming at me at this angle, and I need to know and it's and yeah, that was my time in the American school system. I mean, that's the stuff I'm doing now, and
just okay, for the record, you flew from America to Iceland, and from Iceland to Portugal, made some experience there.
From Iceland to Naples, Italy for another 10 hours because as an American, Italy, I had to have real pizza at least one time. I can't call pizza back home in the US pizza anymore because that's like pizza in Italy and pizza in the US are two completely different things. Totally different. So we just spent 10 hours in Naples, Italy to experience that. Then we went to Budapest, Hungary. That was our official starting point. Then we had our adventure there, our misadventure. We were supposed to go to Portugal, didn't make that flight. We had to go to Barcelona, Spain instead. Then we went from Barcelona to Zaragoza to Pamplona, and then we had the Bulls.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then?
All that was like a complete detour, though, because he got drunk that one time. So.
And your brother just traveled with you, or he went back to America at one point?
Yeah, so halfway through like the celebration in Pamplona, I'm forgetting the festival. There's a name for it that I'm forgetting. Mm-hmm. Because the army only allows you 2 weeks of leave. So yeah, so he had to go back, but I still had some pretty hardcore like army rangers with me that were they were going to take care of me, so I felt fine. But I was confident the bull would win in a fight. I mean, they have some muscles, but that bull's strong, And then the bull's cast, yeah.
All right. And then after Portugal, what happened then? Where did you go?
Let's see. He left. They went on to Ibiza. I could not afford Ibiza, and my brain could not take that anymore for hangovers. So I went back to Barcelona for a bit. Mm-hmm. I then went to Poland to meet up with some friends there. I met up with the Sasquatch Lucas and Soivy, and 2 guys that I was mentoring at my university. So it was great to see long lost friends after that long. Mm-hmm. We were in Krakow, Poland. Let's see. After that, I went to Helsinki, Finland for a little bit, stayed with Soivy a bit longer, and
love it.
Just American me. We're so bad at geography, right? The last time we really look at a map of Europe is like World War II, which is so sad because like, yeah, because and it's like the map has so changed since then. It's like there's so many countries. For example, like the Soviet Union collapsed. Now you have all these new countries: like Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania. You've got all these countries there that didn't exist before. So of course, American me, I'm sitting, in a sauna in Helsinki, talking with my friends, and they're like, oh yeah, there's this place called Tallinn, Estonia, that's not far away. You should go there. So 2 days later, I'm on a ferry going there. Mm-hmm. You have those incredible experiences too. You're discovering these incredible lands and cultures and places. So anyway, I was there for like a night and a half. That was super cool. Went back to Helsinki. Then I went to, Wrocław, Poland, stayed with Lucas a little longer. And then from there, I went to Croatia. I went to Zadar.
Mm-hmm.
I went to Split. Then I went to Dubrovnik. As a Game of Thrones fan, awesome. Wow. The Walk of Shame. You don't feel a whole lot of shame walking that. That was super cool. Highly recommend Dubrovnik, Croatia. Then I flew, Ryanair. Ryanair loves to be able to fly you across the entirety of Europe for like €7.
That's
But if you,
just hilarious. It's just so cheap.
yeah, yeah,
Well, if it's so cheap, it's pretty tempting to do it.
yeah, it's pretty tempting. I mean, I was pretty shocked. As a little side note, that the CEO of Ryanair came out and said that he would be open to doing standing tickets on planes for €1. Have you heard that?
I hear that, but
That's insane to me.
There are some
That's insane.
security systems we have to
Yeah.
keep in place.
Like, right? Yeah. I mean, like, a plane's pretty uncomfortable as it is. Am I prepared to just stand there now with a carry-on my shoulders or something? Anyway, I ended up in Croatia. I ended up in Stockholm, Sweden.
Mm-hmm.
And then after Stockholm, I found a very cheap flight. I was like, Europe was really cool. What about Asia? Found like a €300, ticket to Asia, to Thailand.
Oh, that's quite cheap.
And yeah. And Tapia was there in Phuket. Ran to Tapia at a bartending school.
Story you learned.
Yes. Yes. And that was so fun. It was like more Europeans in a different setting. And I was like, this is so cool. Met so many cool people there. And then I went to Bali. I was in Ubud and Lombok for a bit. And then I went back to Thailand. I was in Railay. And then I was thinking again, my brain was thinking after education, okay, like I've been traveling for months and months and months now.
Mm-hmm.
I need to do something. My productive mind was starting to kick in, okay, what am I going to do? So I was thinking long-term. I was thinking, I loved our time in New Zealand.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna go to New Zealand. I applied for the working holiday visa there. And I got accepted, weirdly enough, in like 2 days. It was actually like a really fast thing. And I highly recommend for any one of your listeners, like totally do this. It is an incredible experience wherever you get to go. Our options being American are very limited. I think we only have like 6 countries we can go to. We can go to like Singapore, New Zealand, Australia, Ireland, Canada, and Korea, I believe are like the only options. But I think Europeans can go, like you guys could go almost anywhere.
I think a friend of mine told me that it was 198 countries we are allowed to travel without any visa.
Honestly, I didn't even know there were 198 countries. So that's amazing. Like, I mean, that is so cool. I'm very jealous of that because you could go there, you can work some jobs, get to know some locals, be immersed in a culture that is new to you, and you grow as a result. You absolutely grow. So I got accepted for this. I was very excited. I flew from Raleigh to Japan. I met a friend there in Tokyo. We had a great time. Then we went to Nagoya, Japan. Then we went back to Tokyo. Then I went to Seoul, Korea. And Seoul, Korea was weird. This was weird. And it's one of those like, it's kind of a reality check for me, like a reminder after the Bulls, because everything was pretty safe after the Bulls of Spain. I was like, I don't think anything's going to try and kill me anymore. I could not have been any more wrong. This was way worse on so many levels. This was Halloween last year. Yeah, the year before last year's Halloween in Seoul, Korea. And I'll go through the story super quick. I was with my friend. We were at this cafe. It was a cafe for all these young entrepreneurs who wanted to get together, do some collaboration and stuff. Yeah, we're at this cafe that was one of these young entrepreneur places. Pretty cool place. And they go, hey, there's a big celebration going on in Seoul later tonight. Would you like to join us? We'll send you, where we are. We'll meet you down there. We said, absolutely. And so sure enough, a few hours later, we're on the Korean metro, going to this place in Seoul. And I start to get these notifications on my phone. They're in Korean. There are these Korean Amber Alerts from their government. And of course, I don't know Korean, so I'm like, okay, what's going on here? And all these people are in like really good. I thought Halloween was an American holiday. I think it's a Korean holiday now. Their costumes were amazing. I mean, really, really cool. I mean, even the fake blood they would have was just nuts. Like I was thinking it was real.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, but it was just packed. And, like, of course, it's a big celebration. You also have like puke everywhere and stuff like that. I'm
Mhm.
like, okay, this is pretty wild. Like, this is kind of one of the more insane things I've seen. We get to this place and we've gotten, we're still getting these Amber Alerts. And every time I'm noticing this number keeps going up.
Uh-huh.
First, the number starts at something like 5, then it goes to maybe 9, then, maybe like 20 something, then 30, then 40 something. It keeps going up and we have no idea what it means or what it is.
Why didn't you ask anyone?
I should have. I was too drunk for that. Yeah. So, but we kind of knew ish at this point. We get out of the metro and this place is packed. There are people passed out on the ground, just puke all over them, and everyone's trying to get out. Everyone's like in a bit of a panic. I'm like, okay, what's
Mhm.
going on here? We get to the top of this metro. There are ambulances, firefighters, police with batons, like threatening people everywhere. It was absolute nuts. And at this point, because we have signal now in the metro, my friend's family in Europe starts to get all these calls. Hey, are you okay? Where are you? What's going on? But
Mhm.
again, we don't have a full story yet. We're still looking for a good time, weirdly enough. So we go, we go to a few places. We learn, these people are actually not going to join us after all, because I guess they were watching the news, and going, oh, maybe we shouldn't go down there. Um, and we end up actually, hilariously enough, having kind of like a very good time there. But we were just kind of watching in horror while we were having a good time, just all these people getting trampled. And so by the end of the night, I think it was something like 150 people died. And, it's weird because like we would have never known. There were so many people there. You would absolutely have no idea. But it was kind of like that harsh reality for me of like, whoa, like travel can be dangerous too. Like
So
this can like
the messages you received were kind of a warning message that you shouldn't go there, and the
yeah,
number was kind of this amount of people already died.
a death toll. I would assume, yeah, or hospitalized or something. Yeah, it's nuts, but that's the thing, like, so the backstory with this is, because of COVID, they didn't have any celebrations or anything for like 2 straight years. So you have
Mhm.
a very young, big young population that wants to get out there and have some fun after 2 years of being cooped up, in a small apartment or something.
Mhm. Mhm.
And this was it. So when the government tries to step in and say no, they don't listen. They're like, no, like we need to have some fun. And unfortunately, people got hurt in
Ju-
this. But
Just because it was so crowded and
yeah,
packed. Ah,
but
okay, now
but
I'm
again,
in the
like
loop.
it's not like I saw any dead people or anything like that. Again, there were so many people you would never know. But
Mhm.
it was more of like, and I also picture too, like people are in these like costumes. What if you get knocked over and you're wearing a super big, heavy costume? It's hard to breathe as it is. Now you have all these people going over you, right? And
Mhm.
we weren't in any costumes or anything like that. And you know, I, so yeah, but it was another big reminder of like, whoa, this can be dangerous, So I was pretty grateful. Okay, well, I'll go to New Zealand and nothing like that's going to happen, and I'll work some
All
jobs
right,
and
just
stuff,
escape to another country.
Yeah, escape some bulls and then stampedes of people, and I'm ready for the next. Now I'm ready to not be killed. This is great,
Sounds
and
reasonable.
so I spend a little more time in Seoul. I go to Japan to get to my flight, but I don't make the flight. I miss it. I miss the flight from Tokyo, Japan, to Auckland, New Zealand. And I'm in an airport doing a lot of math in my bank. I go, you know what? I can't actually afford to get another plane ticket. So this whole New Zealand thing is a complete bust. Can't do it. So
Mhm.
I'm thinking, okay, well, I have enough to get to Berlin, Germany. That was like the cheapest thing I could do. And I thought, okay, I'll get some friends around me. I'll get some counsel, try to figure out what I want to do. And of course, I have like maybe 15 minutes to make this life decision. I don't know if it was the good life decision to make at the point. I'm just kind of glad I made one. So of course I go to Berlin. I, meet some incredible people there. It was really back to traveling Europe like it was before. Of course, now it's December. It's not summer anymore. It's a lot colder. I've run into a new problem. My clothes don't fit anymore. So, of course, being American, we like to put a lot of sugars, a lot of preservatives, a lot of very unhealthy things into our diet and our foods, and unfortunately, there's not a whole lot of laws that prevent companies from doing that. But in Europe, it seems like you guys have it a little better. Food's a bit healthier. It's got less of these things and things are a lot more organic, it seems. Of course, I'm sure there's some examples of where
There's
it might
also
not be
some
the case.
unhealthy stuff you shouldn't eat, Brady. But
Absolutely.
I think it's also a cultural thing that we are gonna keep us healthy, eat sometimes a salad, keep us moving.
Yeah,
So
fitness.
you lost weight, you got shredded.
Yeah, I didn't get shredded like you, but my pants didn't fit anymore. I ran out of holes in my belt. Everything was super saggy. I had to buy whole new clothes. So in Berlin, I buy all these, clothes and stuff. I get ready to, for those. No, what's the very famous one in Berlin? The very famous. It's got the same bouncer every time. It's it's like the electronic music.
Oh, it's a club, you mean?
Yeah. I'm forgetting the name of it.
Wow, well, I'm not in the techno scene, but I can imagine you wanted to go to this fancy techno club who everybody wants to go.
Bergheim?
Bergheim, exactly.
Bergheim.
Where you get drugs offers just straight off the street.
Yeah, a lot of that. Yeah, luckily I don't partake, so I'm a good kid.
Of course, Brady.
all these near death experiences, it just really got me thinking different. So then I go, Nuremberg. After that, I go to Munich. Meet some awesome people.
You went to Nuremberg and didn't tell me.
I did tell you. I told everyone.
But you didn't send me a date or something like that where you're here.
No, okay, that's true. I'm sorry. It's hard. Yeah, but hey, I'm here now. I'm not far away, so there's no excuse now. There's no excuse now. All right,
it's far away. For you, it's not, but for us, it is. Alrighty.
So I went, Nuremberg, then Munich. I went to, Italy for a bit, saw some more people, went to France, saw some people, went to Poland, back to Poland, went to Ireland, and then went home for Christmas. Then,
Did you have a budget? I'm just
yes,
because in the first place you said you didn't have enough money to go to New Zealand, but on the other side you went to Berlin and Munich and Italy.
Yes,
did you get every month money from your parents, or how did it work out?
No, I budgeted it, and honestly, I'm beyond shocked it worked. I needed my mom to buy me my plane ticket home. That was the one thing I really I just did not even have the money for that. So yeah,
what was your budget for the entire time then?
Oh, I had let's see, 8,000.
It's not much.
Yeah, not much. And the original plan was I was going to be gone, because my crazy Uncle Kevin, thinks money grows on trees. He's thinking, oh, you can be out there for 3 years on that. Or 2 years or something, because he thinks, back then when he was doing this, there were not many laws preventing an American from just going up to a shop and being like, hey, I want to work for you wherever you are. But now, you got to have a certain citizenship. You have to be a part of the EU, for example. Now it's way more complex. I would say when he was going, that was the golden age of travel. It almost seemed like anyone could go anywhere and do anything. But then I was at home, after Christmas, and I'm thinking professionally again. I'm thinking, okay, so instead of travel, what am I going to do? I apply for a ton of things with my bachelor's degree. I get nothing in return.
Really?
I don't even get rejections. So I'm realizing pretty quick, okay, so my bachelor's degree isn't worth anything, really, unless I go to Washington, D.C. or do the original plan. So I start
What
working
did you
for my
apply
mom.
for example?
Oh, I'd be applying there'd be a lot of accounting finance things. That's what I did my internship in when I was going to school in Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'd be applying for a lot of supervisor management positions, even when things like that. When I went here back from that, a lot of the work culture in the South back, so I ended up moving. Let's see, yeah, at this point I was in Savannah, Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
Culturally, work is a bit different there. So you kind of have to know someone who knows someone who knows someone and have the connection networking. But, approaching these places through, let's say, for example, LinkedIn, Indeed.com, these
Mm-hmm.
job search sites don't work so well.
Mm-hmm.
So, where, of course, back home in Seattle, it would have worked probably pretty well. They were just kind of behind a certain amount of years. So 9 months pass, and I'm working for my mom, and I realized, whoa, this interior design thing is pretty cool. It's pretty
And your
nice.
mom is working in interior design.
Yeah. So, remodeling whole houses and bathrooms and kitchens and stuff. And you meet with the clients, you're always drinking wine and during these meetings, and it's super fun and happy. So I was like, whoa, this is actually pretty cool. It's also pretty cool having your mom as the boss. That's that's pretty great. There's a lot of great perks with that. But then, of course, I was like, okay, you know what? I need to go out there. I need to do something. So I scrounged up enough money working for her to get this plane ticket to New Zealand. So I go there, and I just travel around a bit. I wanted the work visa. If I find a cool job or something, I can work that job. And I wanted to see if New Zealand would be a cool place long term to live, very long term. And I was kind of thinking to myself, like, wow, New Zealand's behind on a lot of things too. They super cool place, really cool people, and the outdoors are incredible. Not to mention it's where Lord of the Rings happens.
Exactly.
I mean, I remember I was reading Lord of the Rings at the time, and you'd be reading the Fellowship of the Ring in Buckland.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty cool. It was a pretty immersive, awesome experience. Travel wise, I was in the North Island for a bit, then I was in the South Island. Then I came back home again for Christmas. And then at that point, I was like, okay, now what am I going to do? Well, while I was in the hostels and stuff in New Zealand, a lot of people just started assuming I was an English teacher. They were like, you're so patient with people that aren't very good with English. We just kind of assumed you're an English teacher. So I was like, oh, English teacher, that's it. Okay, I'm going to start looking into this. And I found this place called Worldwide Prague. TEFL Worldwide Prague in Prague, Czech Republic, or Czechia. I know they're going through a little thing I heard with their name. And so I applied, I got in. It doesn't require much. You can have any bachelor's degree in any field to get in. You need no teaching experience or anything like that. And now I'm doing the next European trip. We did some interior design stuff in Paris just a few weeks ago, and that was super cool. Meet a lot of super influential people. My mom was even invited to do podcasts, by these interior design people in Paris. So that was pretty cool. It's cool to see family be happy like that. It's awesome. Very fulfilling, I'll say. Yeah. And now I'm here with Tapia in Brussels, Belgium. And then and the next stop will be, I'll probably travel around a bit, Netherlands. I really want to see Luxembourg, for example. I know that's nearby. Now I'll probably go to Poland for a bit again, see Lucas again, and go to Prague and do the school there. So
when does the school start?
Oh, February 12th, I think. So I got.
That's quite a long time until then.
Yeah. So without it's just great that you guys have FlexBus and the trains and all that. The amount that you can see in that amount of days in 10 days is truly incredible. If you're going out of the backpack and staying at home.
Everything is close by,
Yes.
Just a few hours and then you're in another country.
Yeah. But meanwhile, back home, to get, for example, moving out of college, let's see, to get from Colorado to Savannah, Georgia, that was 2 10-hour days of driving and then a 9-hour day of driving.
Oh my gosh.
And that's half the country. That's half. Not even directly half. Directly half would be I think the southern tip of Florida, maybe. we were just going to Savannah, Georgia, which is right near South Carolina. So
just round up. You started international business, studied it, traveled around the world because of crazy cousin Kevin. And now you figured
it was all his fault. It was all his
fault.
fault. When I think like whose fault was this, shit show? It's crazy Kevin.
I love him. And now you figured out your great passion is going to be teaching English.
Yes. And the point that I make at the end is like, I would have not known that if I didn't leave home. I to put this into perspective, of course, I'm thinking Lord of the Rings all the time because I just finished Return of the King, right?
Mm-hmm.
Crazy Uncle Kevin is Bilbo. And I'm Frodo, right? I mean, that's like you grow up with the stories. You grow up with like the wonder, the adventure, and you want that yourself. And that time comes, and it just so I was ready to go on my own adventure, my own career in business, but like crazy Bilbo had another plan. He said, oh, no, you're going to do this instead. Or I think it's actually Gandalf instead, but anyway. Yeah, it's just like life happens, you're kind of like along for the ride, or you can fight the river and drown, but like you can never know what will happen.
Exactly.
So you just might as well make the most of it.
Sounds pretty awesome. Brady.
Very excited.
All right, let's play a game.
Okay.
Just remember your university time. There are 5 to 6 years of studying. Do you remember one moment, which I would call it an up moment? You were high, you loved everything, it was just insane. One moment. And a down moment where you were like, I don't want anymore. And I would like to know how you got out of this down moment. Start with the up.
Okay, the up. And just to clarify, this has to be like in the time of education. Okay, I like this. My up moment. Oh, I want to say, okay, I was in a fraternity for a little bit. It was called Kappa Sigma. And, I was only in it for like 2 weeks because I realized it wasn't my thing. And it's not like the movies. See, at our backwater university, we didn't have the big, house where the big parties happen. We had this cabin in the woods. It had like 3 bedrooms, had half a kitchen. And we had no girls showing up. So it was bad.
It was just a Vino party.
Yes. But this one time, I don't know what it was about this, but me and my best friend, John Deck, we were at this fraternity party and crazy things were happening. I swear, like we had this massive jug of wine. He was drinking it liquid. He was throwing it up solid. I don't know how his stomach can do that. That's weird. But then the police show up. They're trying to bust people for drinking when they're not 21, right? Because the drinking age is a bit different.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm thinking, oh my God, okay, so this is the end of my life. It is, I get a, was it MIP? I think is what it's called when you're drinking underage, or I jump out this window right here.
Mm-hmm.
I jumped out the window. I jumped out the window into this tree and I ran through like all these backyards. And I was thinking to myself, whoa, I have never felt like this in my life. And that had to be it. But it was even like everything around that, like the classes I was taking, for example, like it was so cool. I was meeting so many people, in the study groups, and getting involved on campus and stuff like that. It was a very exciting time in my life. And I was getting along with people a lot better than in high school, so it was awesome. It was great. It was like an adrenaline rush. And then of course, not long after that, this carries all the way over into Sydney, Australia. I had this same feeling all the way through my study abroad experience. And that was like the absolute pinnacle. So I think it's so unique. And I remember the exact moment that it started, jumping out that window at that party, and it ended flying back from Sydney, Australia. And it was like that exact time frame.
So you would recommend every listener one time when the police shows up up.
Jump out the window.
Just
jump out the window. If it's your parents, if it's your brother, if it's crazy Uncle Kevin, you jump out that window. You go head first. You have your hands out in front of you, and wherever life takes you from there, whether it's a hospital, an ambulance, whether it's the next party next door, you go for it. You jump out that window, and it was incredible. Now, of course, the peak of that time was seeing you guys and meeting you guys in Sydney, Australia. Of course, in our wonderful adventures together. I remember the mermaid pools. I remember the figure eight pools. I remember clubbing at Ivy. I remember Darling Harbor.
We were young and stupid.
We were, and wow, I was really stupid. I mean, I was like bottom of the barrel. But I wouldn't I wouldn't take it back for anything, right? If
right.
Of course on paper I would, but with the emotion, I would never take it back for anything.
Alrighty, and now jump over to the down moment.
The down moment. Okay, so when I got back from Sydney, Australia, I wasn't feeling the down moment. I knew the peak was gone, but I didn't hit the down moment yet. And I started, I was thinking, okay, like I could do like an on-campus job, get a little more involved. So I started mentoring students and helping teach classes and study skills. Our school would accept pretty much anyone that like applied. I would have students that would have they would have an attendance rating of 33% in high school. And they would still get accepted into our school. And so our job was to take these students, have them take these required classes with us to learn study skills and find motivation to actually go to school. And if they didn't do well in those, then we kick them out of the school, right? Okay, they really shouldn't be there. So it's kind of giving these students like a second chance. It's sort of what it is. But of course, keep in mind, they're paying for it, right? School's getting money for this still. So, it could be good and bad depending on how you look at it. I met this girl there, and we were in sort of these like on and off relationships. And I would say like that was sort of like the down for me, was these relationships with this particular girl. I would say that
it was kind of a toxic relationship.
I would say so. It wasn't good. And I'll tell you what, man, it wasn't fun. Like I was so used to in university and school having fun, meeting people, discovering what you want to do in life and all this stuff. But this relationship kind of changed that. It was like, okay, well, small town, girl in Colorado, it's like, well, okay, so a lot of these people, in some of these states, they, their roots are very deep where they grow up, and they don't leave very far from the roots. And so it was like, well, if I'm going to be with this person, that means like essentially Colorado almost for the rest of my life. Now they weren't saying that, like they were saying, oh, we're going to move to Florida. We're going to, do all this stuff, or, life takes you wherever, but you're thinking in the back of your head, like, no, that's not the culture here, like, and I would say, it got to a point, to get to the point where how I got out of it. It just kind of got to a point where, I had this opportunity to go to Copenhagen, Denmark for a second exchange. So this incredible experience that I had the opportunity to do this again. And I made the worst decision in my life, and I said no to it. And I decided, no, I'm going to stay with this person.
Just because of the girl.
Yeah. Worst decision I ever made in my life. If I could go back to any time in my life, I remember exactly the stop sign I was at in my car. I would go back. I would have broken up with the girl right there, kicked her out of my car, drove away, and went to Copenhagen, Denmark. That's what I would have done. Like, I made the wrong call. I absolutely made the wrong call. And of course, we broke up months later, but the opportunity went by, and I would never get it again. But it was that last straw that like she took this beautiful experience that I had in Sydney, the most beautiful, precious thing that had ever happened to me in my life, was taken from me, by this toxic person. And I was like, why am I accepting this? And that was the end. And then of course a month later after that was when I graduated from university, and this whirlwind of an adventure began through Europe and Asia and Europe again, and but like it took, I think, that sacrifice of a person in my life to get out of that.
You should never sacrifice your dreams, your goals because of one person.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, because people change,
Exactly.
You might like that person now. 10 years from now, I mean, I don't know, people change, so relationships are tough, and I'm not a relationship expert, of course, but yeah, I mean, that was the low, was just watching this amazing opportunity that I knew would be incredible. Just go by, because someone just was kind of uncomfortable with it, like make the calls yourself, listen to yourself and make the call. Yeah. But yeah, that would be the high and the low for me.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Brady.
Beautiful experience.
Indeed. Brady, it was an awesome time to catch up with you. We are almost 90 minutes in.
Oh no, I'm sorry.
No, you don't have to. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, my friend.
Of course. No, and it's so awesome, like even just to hear your voice again, like it is like surreal to me. Like it is.
Of course.
You're the man.
To each
you're
other
the man.
for quite a long time.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I want to say thank you for your time. Thank you for participating in my lovely, great German podcast.
I'm a forever fan now. I will forever be a listener now.
You can just subscribe to my YouTube channel and don't understand anything.
I'll learn a lot of German. I mean, I'm sure. I hope a lot of people. I know I talk fast. I'm a fast English speaker. I hope people learn some English, though. But I'm going to learn a whole lot of German.
Can you speak German?
Guten Tag.
Pardon?
Guten Tag.
What do
yeah.
Why are you looking to the left? Who is sitting there?
I have my advisor, my German advisor.
Okay, Guten Tag sounds good. Sounds good. Can you say?
I know. Deutschland.
Deutschland, ja.
Deutschland, yeah.
Deutschland, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I would say. I'd walk into hostels in New Zealand and you would just hear German and you would just say Deutschland, and they'd look at me like, your pronunciation's horrible, but it was a great like icebreaker,
And anything else? Or it's that's it.
It's pretty bare bone.
Well,
I know
say hello,
is no.
And that's it.
Yeah.
And you say I can speak a little bit German.
Your podcast is becoming very handy. This is going to be very helpful for me. I'm going to learn a lot. I'm going to learn a lot of German.
Well, you can just say in German, because it's evening right now, you can say something like Danke.
Danke.
Dass ich heute dabei sein durfte.
Dass er heute? Danke, dass er heute?
Dabei sein durfte.
Wait, what? Wait, say that again. Goodbye?
Dabei sein
Dabei sein
durfte.
Durfte.